Happy 2020, Chumbatas! This is the start of a limited run review channel where I'm going to be talking about the books from the official Cyberpunk 2020 game by R. Talsorian, most of them written by Michael Pondsmith. This, of course, is just in time for the Cyberpunk 27 video game, as well as the Cyberpunk Red RPG coming out later this year. This game has stood in the shadow of Shadowrun, but no longer, because now you will know what made this game so immortal, and since it's now set in current day, there's no time like the present. First up, of course, is the Cyberpunk 2020 core book, because that's the obvious starting point. I'm Mr. Welch, and without further ado, I present to you the Cyberpunk 2020 rulebook. This review isn't going to be covering the genre as a whole. This is mainly looking at the rules in the Cyberpunk rulebook, as well as some house rules I've come up with to fix some of the problems I see that it has. If you want to see the video covering the genre, go to the Mad Musings site to check out the Cyberpunk 2020 video for that book. This review is just the second edition book, though I am using the 2.1 rulebook, which doesn't change any of the rules from 2.0, but it did update art and fix quite a few typos. Either version of second edition will do, just 2.1 is prettier of the two, as admitted by Mike Pondsmith himself. The core rulebook jumps right in with the classes on page 6, or better known as the roles. The style and feel of each of the roles are hammered home, so you get a feel of your character in the game. Special mention is given to each of the class's special abilities before the roles are even described in detail. The game mentions 10 special abilities, but in the list of roles, the Medtechie is shoehorned into the Techie write-up, despite Medtechie largely considered a starting class rather than a subclass. This gives a decent write-up for each of the roles and pitches the driving motivations of each role. Outside their special ability, however, none of the classes differ mechanically except for the Netrunner. So if you wanted to play a combat techie or a business-savvy solo, there's nothing stopping you. Only the Netrunner can access the internet in a combat role, which sets them apart from the other roles, often literally as well as mechanically. Character generation is a multi-step process. The first process is determining how to set up your stats. You can roll dice, though because it's a simple D10 roll, you can end up with wildly varied stats. Point buy is another option, with point levels given for different styles of campaigns. One issue Cyberpunk has always had is the stats aren't even remotely balanced in their use. Appearance is the only one that can be raised simply by spending money, making it the universal dump stat, as you can spend money from your first score to turn you supermodel gorgeous. Going from bag over the head ugly to lovely Winona is only going to cost you a few thousand Euro-bucks. Once you decide how you're going to acquire your stats, you determine your age and then roll on some charts to see what has led you to your current situation. A lot of it is just background events that can be used for adventure hooks, but some of the results can raise or lower stats if you get lucky or unlucky. It's actually possible to die during character generation this way, but the odds of that happening are so remote, it's not something that you need to worry about. After you've got your background, you start with 40 skill points to spend on your role's skill package. Only your special ability is exclusive to your class, the other 9 skills are just what's recommended for your starting character. After you spend those points, you get to add your reflex and intelligence together and get those points as bonus skills that you can spend on any skills outside your initial skill package. Character creation is one of the biggest problems with the game because it is quite vulnerable to min-maxing. Your starting cash is based entirely on your special abilities level. The more points you spend on your ability, the higher your starting cash. Skills also tend to get maxed out at start because there's no reason for a character not to have the best skill in their profession, like a starting solo with a weapon skill of 10 or a netrunner maxing out the netrunning skill, and so on. Normally I cap skills at 5, but this doesn't work with the special abilities because income is directly tied to that. Instead, you want to tie the income to the adventure level to remove the min-maxed characters. So if you have a low-level characters, they don't start with a lot of money. If you've got the big hero characters, they start with more money. I mentioned appearance being the dump stat earlier. The flip side of this is empathy, because you need a lot of it for Cybernetics, because Cybernetics eats your soul. It makes a large number of the characters hideous yet strangely charismatic, at least until they start chopping off body parts to make room for Cybernetics. Likewise, to avoid people min-maxing the pickup points by having extremely intelligent and very responsive characters, no matter what they're normally playing, just give a flat number of pickup points for everyone. 10 to 15 should be fine. That will again remove part of the desire to min-max in that area. The next major part of the book is Cybernetics and gear, which is some of the more important parts of character development. Large number of the gear gives you benefits or increases some statistics. Normally you can't increase your stats. This is one of the few ways to improve your character, at least stat-wise. If you wanted to do a house rule to increase your stats, just make it 100 times the level you're going up to for XP to raise it. So if you have a reflex of 7 and you want to go to a reflex of 8, it costs you 800 experience points. That's a quick and easy way to do it that my players really enjoyed. For gear, all you need is cash, assuming you can find the gear in the first place. Cybernetics, you have to balance the humanity cost along with the cash, and you also have to take damage to get the surgery. It's best to have a lot of downtime when you want to upgrade your cyber. Cybernetics can go from anywhere from just eyes and limbs to spider eyes, multiple limbs, and exoskeletons. You can go absolutely gonzo with the cybernetics, but the wilder the cybernetics are from the baseline human, the harsher the humanity cost. You can't go completely metal without hitting cyberpsychosis at a breakneck pace. Because Cyberpunk is a brutal universe, the combat system reflects this. High-power weapons can take off entire limbs with a bullet. A headshot is almost always lethal without armor. There is a flaw with the action economy, leaving you able to take multiple actions with a cumulative penalty for all actions, except many actions don't have a roll that requires you to make, rendering the penalty moot for many things. A simple fix is to only allow one non-combat action per round, so you don't have somebody run across a field, unload their gun into you, reload, and then unload the gun again, with the proximity bonus negating the penalty completely. The biggest bug in the game, as well as any Dark Future game, is net running. It's a major part of any cyberpunk setting, but the issue is that the cyber world means the netrunner doesn't even have to accompany the party. There's a lot of ways around this, many by having the netrunner accompany the party on some runs, or allowing the netrunners only to take actions in the net in a purely dramatic moment. Instead of playing the game straight as with the netrunner moving 5 squares a turn, just assume the netrunner is moving along in cyberspace with the party. When you are getting the group together, you definitely need to see what kind of game they are wanting to play. First and foremost, the guns go from merely deadly to fully automatic room brooms. A 9mm pistol is cheap, easily available, and relatively low powered. Compare that to a 7.62 assault rifle, which does triple the damage, has numerous shots around, and will typically kill an unarmored character on an average die roll. Guess which one the party is going to want. Guess which one gets C-SWAT out with all their toys just walking down the street with one. The book has a large amount of background that gets expanded in future supplements. You can run campaigns with the book presented, but the information given is just a snippet of further information about the setting. In the back of the book, there's multiple adventure seeds and handouts for new players that are designed to get them in the mood to play Cyberpunk. It's a decent starting book, but one that doesn't provide everything when you first get started. If you want to get the rulebook, you're in luck, because Untitled Chapter is keeping the 2020 setting in print, and this book is still list price. Granted, it's $30 list price now because of inflation, but it is a brand new book. It's not a complicated rule set, but it is a lethal one. There's no raise dead, but it's easy to create a new character at least. There's a few rules that need to be tweaked, like I use luck points to change the rolls of certain things, like where you get hit or where you hit somebody or if your gun jams, but those rules are minor in nature. Well, this is my first review for my Welcome to Night City channel. It's a bit of a rehash from the Mad Musings, but for those looking for an in-depth review of the setting, they just have to wait until I get to the rest of those books. I'm going to try to get the rest of these up in the middle of the week so you have more videos to look forward to. Next book up is going to be the classic Night City, which you should already own. It's just that good.